Everybody's staying in the shop while they're eating?
Sports?
Yeah, you guys keep eating.
Yo, is it Loud Live Sports?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait. I'm out.
Fucking A, Anthony.
Fuck.
Cotton.
Oh.
All right, go.
Okay.
We gotta hit record there.
Oh, fuck, Sammy.
Oh my god, I'm new. I can't read.
Hold on. There we go.
Oh, okay. So we're good?
We're good.
Oh, all right. Well, we wasted the good surprise on you. To the Loud and Live Sports podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, we snacking and we podcasting.
We got Sammy Moniz. Matthew Fraser.
Matt Fraser.
My famous co-host. This is number 2 for us, buddy.
This is great.
How'd the last one go?
I think it went pretty well. I think. I
think you did great.
Heard some sound bites from the last one. Okay, there's a couple things I got to
that's a good
correct.
mistake.
Do better.
We got a floater.
Yeah.
We didn't make anybody cry.
No tears.
No tears?
No tears.
We're like 50, I'm like batting 500 on making people cry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who'd you make cry?
Shane, like 14 times.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
He's a softie.
Softy.
What are we doing here?
So we're in Madrid, and we're snacking on some local charcuterie.
Listen, we should have started recording like 20 minutes ago. Matt's deep into this thing right now.
You don't realize how bad
Or how hungry
cured
you
meats
are.
are in the States
Yeah.
until you come here.
So we've got, I'll bring you guys through this. We've got, Alfonso brought us some manchego and some olive oil, and that is amazing. And then at the market yesterday, we went to San Miguel Market. Oh, sorry. Oh, so bad. Yeah. San Miguel Market, and I got some salami and chorizo and jamon, and then some mandarin and some grapes and some Marcona olives and artichokes. And we got ourselves a little snackage.
It's amazing.
So good. I think, Alfonso, were you the one that said cheese and grapes is like a kiss? That's like a saying that they have here.
Is that a Spanish thing?
I don't know. Can you say it in Spanish for us? Come over to my mic.
Queso saben a beso. Uvas con queso saben a beso.
Beso.
A beso.
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 I heard the beso.
Besos.
What? So, are chorizo Portuguese?
Chorizo is Portuguese. Chorizo is Spanish.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different.
I don't care where it's from. It's all amazing.
Chorizo is a little spicier. Chorizo is not as spicy. They don't use heat as much in Spanish cooking. It's more like a smoked paprika pepper versus a spicy pepper.
The more you know.
The more you know.
So, obviously, you know, what we're going to talk about is, and all this knowledge you're dropping on us is what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. So, feeding the Frasers.
Feeding the Frasers. I am feeding that Fraser. And this one too.
Is this a normal,
Technicality.
What day is it? This is sad. I don't know what day it is.
It's a Wednesday.
Is this a normal Wednesday night in the Fraser household?
It could be. It very much could be. We do this more when we have people over. It's definitely more of like a gathering.
This is a bigger board than usual.
Right.
I've had a couple times where like my rest day, I don't leave the couch. I'm just like tucked in, curled up, watching my stories. And Sammy will come over with like a cutting board just full of like different cured meats and cheeses. But it's not this big or extravagant. But yeah.
Yeah. This is a treat.
I mean, I am a well-fed, almost Fraser. Mm-hmm. And
Honorary.
O'Keefe is the stray cat.
Yeah. We call him our stray cat because he'll be on the road going crazy for a couple weeks at a time or a month at a time, whatever it is. We just leave our door unlocked and we know he's coming in off a late night flight. We'll see him in the morning. We leave a plate of food on the island. He can heat it up when he comes in.
He'll literally tell us like, oh, my plane lands at 11 p.m. in Nashville. It takes me an hour to get there. So I'll be there a little bit after midnight. And then we're like, all right, well, we're in bed at 10.
We'll see you in the morning.
So we leave the door unlocked, leave a plate of food out for him, and we'll see you in the morning.
Yeah. He sleeps for 14 hours.
He'll usually come like sauntering down the stairs around like 11 o'clock or noon. we're like, hey, how are you? He'll have another plate of food, pack his bag, like, all right, guys, I got to hit the road.
Yep.
See ya.
Flight's at 4. Gotta go. Bye.
Checking in with the fam. I will
It's so good. We love it when you come by.
oh man, I wish I could be there more. More, but this well, I will attest to that. I stop in often in Cookeville. Summers, when you're there for a couple months in Vermont, little drive for me, and there has never been a bad meal. But let's talk about this. So obviously we've worked together a long time, and
We have.
and
O'Keefe is the best boss.
Well, so I think we need to preface this. Before the job Sammy
Right.
quit to go full time with Feeding the Frasers was working with O'Keefe.
Right, correct.
And Sammy was in charge of like athlete management, reaching out to sponsors,
Yep.
taking care of the existing sponsorships
Yep.
for all the athletes.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
I know. He did such a great job. It's like he's heard me talk about it.
Well, I mean, people say, I remember like last year, people would say all the time, oh, I wish I could stay home all day and just cook. And Sammy's
my
like,
God. Yeah, me too.
like, no, I have a job, right? Like, I'm the manager and agent for like Katrin David's daughter, Annie Thor's daughter, Brent Fikowski, Patrick Vellner, myself. Like, it's like, nope, I have a pretty busy job.
That is a busy job.
Yeah.
It is a job. It's interesting. Let's talk
It's a
about
lot
that
of
a
fun.
little bit. I didn't even know that we'd go that way. Like, we're going to talk a lot about what you're doing now. I mean, I had a blast with you for what?
Oh my
how long
gosh.
was it? Almost
2.5.
Yeah, almost
3 years. Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Sorry, I'm having
What
some
Reebok lost, I found.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best days of my life.
So good.
Yeah.
So grateful. That was such a. I left my job at Reebok to move up to Vermont, and I had searched for a couple jobs, applied for some jobs in Vermont, and I remember when I had quit my job. I was planning on moving whether I had a job or not. It was just kind of one of those like, we'll figure it out. And you were like, well, just like in the meantime, why don't you just do some work for me? Like, I'll keep you busy in the meantime. And then it was just like,
it started that was part-time.
yeah, yep, it was
And-
for a long time. Yeah.
And I remember O'Keefe has such a hard time handing off work or relying on other
Right.
people. So to motivate himself to give you more work, he put you on retainer. So you were getting paid hourly, and then it was like, all right, I'm going to give you X amount per month, whether I use you or not. So that's going to motivate me to hand off
Yep.
more work to you.
Yep.
And then that slowly built into, oh my God, I'm getting way too much work. And then it kind of turned into a full-time thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, like all in. It's funny to hear Matt describe that, because I think even though I never perfected it, I think, and still haven't, but you certainly helped me learn how to delegate a little bit.
Yeah.
It was still,
O'Keefe, give me work.
you know how hard it is for me.
Yeah,
It
totally.
always was. And
Well, I think a big thing too was when you started out, it was just you.
I was your baby.
It was just you and the athletes.
you and I.
Yeah. I mean, that's where it
Yeah,
all started.
that goes
We're going all
way
the way back.
back.
But by the time,
Back in time.
you started your first company, and then, what would you have, 18 athletes?
Yeah.
And then you got into the bit more like the competitions, corporate side of things. And it was like, but you have these personal relationships with these athletes that you've built over the years, where it's like, even though I'm building this new thing, I don't want to leave my athletes high and dry. And Sammy already knew everyone in the sponsorship
Yeah.
world from working at Reebok. Sammy knew all the athletes. Everyone loves Sammy. And so it was just
Thanks,
like a
guys.
natural, easy switch of like, all right, now if like the day-to-day questions and stuff, you're going to direct it towards Sammy. And I'm going to go build these awesome competitions.
It was, that was easy, seamless, right? I will tell you, I probably hyperventilated a little when she said she was going to move on to what she's doing now.
I know.
Because of that, I'll tell you, because it was, I think and you can attest to this as an athlete, like the hardest, well, I mean, I think trust is earned no matter where you are, but certainly people in your position where you have people looking for things from you all the time that you don't know, and probably for the wrong reasons. It's hard to get in with you guys.
Well, a lot
it's
of our
harder,
job, I feel like a lot of our job is protecting the athletes from being taken advantage of.
Yep.
And so I remember telling O'Keefe, and it was like, okay, I told O'Keefe, and he's obviously super supportive and so happy. And And then I said, oh no, we have to tell everybody else. Like, I had to individually, I felt like I was breaking up with everybody, being like, listen, it's not you, it's me. I need to go on and like find myself and work on things for me, and you're going to be fine. You know, it was like every conversation just felt like a little bit of a breakup.
I mean, it's the last 5 years has been comical to me because like what you're building, like I'm on the outside watching all the parts move, and like I get consulted on every once in a while for like, hey man, the fuck should I do? And and it's like, I'm trying to give unbiased advice of like, I think that's a good move. And like with Sammy, when she quit her job in Boston and was moving to Vermont, and for me, I'm like, hey, like, don't worry about getting a job. I know you will. If I need to, I'll cover your bills for a couple months. And I'm okay with that because I know it's going to drive you way crazier than it'll ever bother me. Like
Never had to.
Yeah. And then just like picked up that gig real quick and it kind of hit the ground running. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one of the most beautiful pieces of your work was that you lived with him, the fittest man on earth, but you managed probably two of his chief competitors on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And it worked, right? It wasn't like I was getting calls from those guys like, hey, man, it was like one big dysfunctional happy family.
Yeah.
But it would be funny. I remember a couple times, like, she'd be on the phone with Vellner or Fikowski talking about like a new potential sponsor, an existing sponsor, whatever. Just like, hey, make sure you get this post up and like you have these travel dates, but like very surface level stuff. I'd walk by and like see like Brent's name or Vellner's name. And I remember like Brent had just gotten married. I was just like leaning, hey, Brent, like congrats on the wedding. And
Yeah.
I think
I mean, they're competitors. They're competitors on the floor and competitors in business. But I feel like the more you know about brands and you understand, for the most part, brands are going to have their marquee male athlete and their marquee female athlete. And then, yes, maybe there are some other tiers below, but, we're super fortunate to be working with the top tiers of athletes. So they all kind of sat in their own silo. There wasn't competitive side of the business where you were competing for the same sponsorships.
I think a big thing too was, when the sport earlier in the sport, there's only a handful of sponsors in the space, and when there's only a few sponsors, they just want the best athlete. So then you're competing for that top spot to get those top sponsorships, that type of thing. Now there's so many different companies in the space that they're more specific with who they want. Obviously, they want someone that's top ranked, like, just a like perennial podium athlete, But each sponsor wants like their personality reflected in the athlete. So they want a good fit. It's no longer just you're number one, you're getting the top deal. You're number two, you're getting the second deal. It's certain sponsors fit different athletes better. And you hear some of the numbers coming in, like number 2 person getting paid less than whoever's number 10, but that number 10 person was just a better fit for that company.
Yeah. Very.
I think I've always thought this, and I still to some extent do. If we're to take our names and like faces out of it and like put on paper sort of all the tentacles connecting and like put it to like a
family tree.
Yeah, but put it out to like just the public or like somebody in like maybe the general sports market, they'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Like,
He manages him, but she's married to him, and he's the dad of this guy. And
well, think about, I remember you were talking to one sponsor for one of the female athletes, and they were saying, we want that girl and Mat Fraser. And Sammy's on the phone with them, and they were like, would Mat Fraser be available like April 2nd? And Sammy was like, I don't know. Here, let me check. Hey, Matt, do you want to go to Utah April 2nd? And like, I was like, yeah, sounds good. And I remembered like the phone call. They were like, wait,
what? How did you just ask him that?
And she was like, he's next to me. And they're like, why is he next to you? Well, I'm engaged to him. I live with him. And they're like, what the fuck? Like,
All of a sudden,
they
I
had
heard
no
like
idea.
the fan voice come out. Really? Oh wow! It's like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool. He's just like right there.
You know, it's fun. And like your work isn't done there either, right? Like you've now, and we'll transition here a little bit on that because I think it's like, well, first of all, you know, I think it's a proud moment when somebody who worked with you as long as I do feels, you know, enough to, because we were talking about with Heber and Marston the whole betting on yourself thing,
Yeah.
and how hard that is, and like the, you know how liberating that entrepreneurial moment it is, and then you're like, oh, I get it, I can do this with anything, and like the fear goes away, and you just go, right? But you know, you doing that. And I think, you know, this is like a little bit was of our conversation because I think you were afraid of it and wondered, but like, man, it was like, oh, wow, that's, you know, yeah, that sucks a little bit. But if you were with me for 20 years, I would have probably done run by you, right?
Right.
And, you know, so what is it like, you know, I don't know, 2-3 months, no, probably more now.
It was more. It was
4 months ago.
It would have been end of August or September that we had the conversation, and then I think November, right after the holiday
transitional.
Yeah. We stayed on for a little bit just to
and
move it along.
And all along, you know, you were organically building this thing, right? So this thing is Feeding the Frasers, which I'll let you explain in a second. And it was time, like, and we all agreed on that, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, it was
more
than
like,
time.
what are we doing? What am I doing with this? Like, am I just going to continue to post on Instagram? I mean, it started out as just an Instagram for myself, a food photo journal of this is what I'm cooking at home. I started where I was sharing a lot of food on my personal page, and a friend of mine was like, you should create, you know, a separate page just for your food. And at the time, it was kind of like, who the hell do I think I am starting an Instagram page? And it was like, okay, that seemed to be the most organic and natural and something that I was just interested in anyway. So I started putting everything to that Instagram and kind of, you know, right out of the gate had a look and feel for it that I was interested in. And that's just kind of how it grew. And that's all I did, was just whenever I had the chance, whenever I was cooking at home and whenever the daylight was right and whenever we were not on the road and traveling, I just kind of had a little setup and that's what I did. And then it was, you know, it's grown very quickly and has a great following, a super engaged following. And it was like, what am I doing with this? I feel like I could be doing more, but I just physically didn't have the time to dedicate more to it.
I think one thing that's a big part of it was you were doing it. Not that many people knew about it.
Right.
Like we'd post about it every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Like you had a couple thousand followers, I think. And then it was Marston and Heber came to Vermont.
Oh, for the road to the games.
For the road to the games.
Yeah.
And they put it in their video.
That's right.
And it was like overnight jumped up to like 50,000 followers.
Yep.
It was crazy.
I want to say, honestly, I think when I first started it, it was a private account. You know, like, I mean, it was a couple years ago and it was just, and I don't know why, it was just like you had your personal account and that was always like a private thing. And then eventually it was like, you know what? I'm going to make this public. Like I remember actually turning it to a public account. Who has private accounts anymore?
What's the point? Like the point
Cowards.
of social media?
Just cowards.
I think my account might be private.
God.
No, but I didn't know that.
Cheeky.
Somebody said that to me yesterday. They were like, "Your account's private." And I'm like,
Oh.
wow. That's because
Super
he
elite.
said that. I was like, but that's because I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh my
But-
gosh.
When are you going to change your Instagram name to Chief Keef?
I know.
Oh my god, man. That would. I don't know if I could do that.
I don't know. It's kind of your identity.
I'll do it
is
for
your
you tonight.
original one. Yeah. We'll teach you.
All right. So you
Yeah. So
have the minerals as Ollie
the
said.
minerals. Yeah.
I'm gonna use that Ollie forever.
It's a good one. I can't say like I've done the entrepreneurial stuff like right out of college. I was a wedding DJ. I hustled, you know, like
Talk to her.
Sammy's
Wait,
had
let's go.
all the fun jobs.
I've had some fun jobs.
You were
I was a
high ropes instructor.
So I was a high ropes instructor in college. I was a sailing instructor in high school.
Jeez.
I just sat on a Boston whaler all summer and sailed with kids.
By the way, we're about to have a lot of fun.
I know, this
Here we
is
go.
great.
We're gonna dig in. Onion coming back.
Peeling it back. So yeah, high school I was a sailing instructor. In college I did high ropes course, and then during and after college I was a wedding DJ and did bar and bat mitzvahs. Oh, I was the funnest on the dance floor, obviously.
What was your name?
Oh no. So like you don't
DJ
have,
Sam Moniz.
Yeah, you don't. But Sam Moniz, sure, but you don't have a DJ name when
Why
you're
not?
in the wedding circuit. Like
Well, some do.
you don't have a profile on the knot and you're like DJ Sammy Sam. Like it's not.
Don't you-
not a DJ.
Were you the one like? Have you been to a wedding where like DJ takes over and you want to like punch him in the face and he's out on the
Sammy
floor?
is the most critical person
I
to
can't
go to a
weddings.
wedding or like any event. She's like, what are they doing starting out with this music?
You
Bringing
don't
out the bride and groom.
You don't start the evening after dinner with, Outcast. That's just too aggressive too soon. You got to ease in with Earth, Wind, Fire and Michael Jackson, Pretty Young Thing. There's a
Progressions.
flow.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very critical at weddings.
Sammy will
I'm like,
DJ our own wedding.
what is this playlist? So yeah, and that I did, what's it called? Bar trivia. 2 nights a week at 2 different bars.
I didn't even know that. And I know you really well.
Yeah, I used to be a bar trivia host. That was a lot of fun. I used to be filled with useless facts. I've kind of forgotten them all, but
Wow. So
Yep.
you have like your Instagram personal, okay, which is another handle.
yeah, just its own thing.
Always kind of told you got like a style to you.
Yeah.
You're like
I'm
you're a
creative.
style. You're a creative,
Creative.
stylish chick. You know,
Yeah.
like presents you give Matt are creative. Like you're artsy, fartsy a little bit. Right?
Yeah, I did
You can
theater
see it
growing
with
up.
this.
I mean, come
She's
on.
artsy, a little crunchy.
A little
Yeah.
crunchy.
Crunchy.
Yeah, crunchy. That's a good one.
Like you just had like you can see it in your personal the personal Instagram was first, but it was like you were very like you have like core values
Yeah.
for what that needed to look
Yeah.
like.
I have
Not
a
because you-
brand.
but not that you cared what anybody else thought, but you like
Just because I think it's cool. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the same thing with my Feeding the Frasers is like people will comment sometimes of, oh, we really want to see, close-up shots of the food. And I get that. I totally do. And food photography is a beast of its own. I'm learning. I'm taking an online food photography class right now. It's
is that food porn?
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
sort of.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, anything could be classified as food porn. This could be food porn. I mean, it looks delicious, right? That's what food porn is. It's just anything that, like, makes your mouth water immediately. But I don't want to change Feeding the Frasers layout, even though I know it could be better in terms of food photography, but it's not the brand.
Right.
The brand isn't the up close detailed shots. The cookbook will definitely have that because the whole point of a cookbook is you flip open a page and you see the finished product and you say, damn, that looks so good. I'm willing to go through steps 1 through 15 to get that final result. So you have to
I think-
entice people a little bit more
I
through a
think
cookbook.
with your Instagram account, like the whole purpose of it is those are plates that are literally going that you
Totally.
put together and then they're getting put in front of me
Yeah.
to devour.
The post might not be happening in real time, but the actual feeding is happening in real time. I'm like, ooh, Matt's coming home from training in an hour. I'm going to cook this dish. I'm going to photograph it while I do it. And then when he gets home from his break at the gym, he's got a hot plate of food.
Yeah, so like the photos I think that are coming up on Feeding the Frasers, you don't want to like the whole point of the page is you're feeding the Frasers.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Totally.
That's our food. And so you don't want to like use kind of like props, to
Right.
like make it look more glamorous. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like this is what we're eating.
Right. And that's one thing that I've actually gotten some really good feedback from people on is that the way that the page is laid out is that it makes it feel accessible. Like even I sometimes I follow a ton of food bloggers, I read a ton of cookbooks, and there are some times when, you've got like edible flowers garnishing the table and the napkins and the salt and pepper and all of like the ingredients it looks so dressed and beautiful, but it looks unapproachable. It looks like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I couldn't style a plate like that. It's like, yeah, because in reality, your food comes out like this and it's it's just on the plate. So that I think that's the difference
That looks
between
good, though.
this is
That
maybe
looks
a
great.
bad example. This is a little.
I mean, but
standout
even in
gradient,
our
but-
house, like if Sammy makes me like a sandwich and then goes take a photo and she like cuts it in half and puts one half on top of the other.
Right.
When it comes over to me, I'm like, ooh, fancy. Like, what'd you church
We at
this
a
up for?
restaurant.
I think people want to see behind that layer at some point. So
Yeah.
we need a vlog.
Right. We're working on some IGTV stuff.
Good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What so that's that. And that was a question I had thought of. Because I think, and I know the answer to it. Like, you can honestly say that everything that's on that Instagram, and I think that's like the core value of Feeding the Frasers is that it fed the Fraser. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm like, I know Sammy says like the number one thing that gets likes, comments that people request is like the desserts, the pies. Like the
Right.
number one post that you've ever put up was peanut butter pie.
Yeah, I think it got like
And-
22,000 likes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And like people raved about it and they're like, oh, we want more of that. Or Sammy knows like I can have instantly more success if I start posting that type of stuff. But then, well, that's not what we're eating. Like the peanut butter pie was the weekend after
Post-competition.
regionals.
Yep.
TNI.
Celebration pie.
Yeah. And so, we're not normally eating stuff like that. So when it comes up, it's organic. It's the weekend after regionals. TNI sat down, ate the entire thing in one sitting.
Oh, broke my heart. I had to buy a cake last weekend for your birthday. Like, this is stupid. I should be
good, though.
making it.
It was good though.
I know.
What
I got you by. We're gonna celebrate
Are you
again.
critical? Like, and I know some of this, but like, if you don't like something, do you tell her, or do you like try to sugarcoat it and be like
He
kind?
hates it.
Zero
But yeah.
sugarcoating goes into it.
Yeah.
So
I've told him before, if you don't tell me, the issue is I'm going to keep making it this way. I'm not going to be able to get better if you don't say, hey, this is too salty or this is whatever. Like, I
So
can't make adjustments if you don't tell me.
if she wasn't trying to pursue it and build it into something
Right.
and get better at it, then the once a week when tuna casserole gets put on the table, I would just like, oh, thanks, sweetheart. Like she worked hard on it and
Tuna
you know,
casserole, where did that come from?
I feel like that's like the very like American. It's like Wednesday night spaghetti, Thursday's
Right.
pot roast,
Tuna
Friday,
casserole.
Yeah, one of the
I've
nights
never,
is two.
just for record, I've never made tuna casserole. Maybe I will now.
Maybe he likes it.
Maybe. We don't know.
So I mean, it's a dead giveaway when I love something because I'm very like
He
We've
has
all seen the
the
posts.
best first bite reaction.
what's the movie? What About Bob? When every bite he eats, he's like, oh my god, like
Oh my!
that's what I do.
That's exactly, and so it's this. Oh my god! Like
Yeah.
you just know. And
So
it's
like
my
when that
favorite.
happens, Sammy's like, crushed it.
winning.
And then there are some times when I'll have a bite of something, I'm like, all right, I already know a way this could be better. Like I still eat the whole plate. I don't dislike it.
He's a food critic now.
But
this
like
muffin is bad.
but there's a lot of stuff like I've learned how to break down a meal a little bit more. Even something as simple as like the texture. Like food texture is a big part of the meal. Like the more textures there are, the more you eat. When a meal is one consistency, you get sick of it after like 5 bites.
Right.
That's why you jump around the plate to different things. That's why,
So that's the key to dieting for me.
well, I mean, and then
all
like
mush, just one texture.
like when the casseroles have like crunchy onions on top, it's not the flavor of it that's making it better. It's the
texture.
different texture. Because
Look
your
at
brain,
you.
I've watched some documentaries on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more.
I think
more
this is
learned
like
I
on it.
love
displaying
this.
the love. You
Oh my
guys have
gosh,
right
he's
And so
so
it's-
into my thing.
now. Yeah.
So it's literally like when I eat a meal that's brand new from Sammy, I want to give proper feedback that she can fix for next time or make it better for next time. And I can only think of one. It was like a coconut cream
It was recently, yeah.
soup with rice or noodle, whatever it was, doesn't
Called
matter.
Tom Kaga, which I'm
And-
probably butchering, but it's delicious.
And I remember I took one bite and I'm kind of like thinking of like, how do I like verbalize this, And then all I could come up with is like, I'm pretty sure you nailed this recipe. I'm pretty sure this is exactly what it's supposed to taste like. I just don't like it. And Sammy was literally like, oh yeah, I fucking crushed this recipe.
Yeah.
She's like, I love it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, this just isn't my flavor. It's
It was
not
one of
what
those
I
things
like.
where-
Zero offense taken.
Zero offense taken. I took the first bite and I had that, oh my God, moment of just like, yes, this is it. It was completely connected to memory. Like I remember the first time I had it, where I was, all these things. I'm like, oh, okay, I did really good. And he's just quietly sitting there being like, and eating it. And I was like, oh, you don't like it, do you? And he goes, not really. And I said, it's okay. It's right. You just don't like coconut. I'm like, now we know. So
I think, and like anytime I do give like a constructive criticism, I always start, I'm like, I feel awful
Yeah.
saying this
I don't love this.
because you just worked so hard on making this, but I don't like it.
He
What,
literally says like that too, but I don't like it.
yeah, I've been around that. Like you, well, you're very critical of your own cooking, which
Yeah.
probably helps that. But yeah, well, I mean, I think you're seeing a little into your relationship. You guys have a pretty beautiful relationship. If I
Yeah,
do
man.
say so myself.
Yeah, we
Thank
crushed
you.
that shit.
Yeah.
You do.
We communicate.
That's it. You do.
It is
love
crazy how simple it is. That's it. That's all it is. Just communication.
It's as simple, and again, like it's so funny to be the interviewer of particularly you, or like when he's involved, because I see it, I live it, right? But like, is it as simple as I see or we see and through social? Because it's like, listen,
yeah.
I'll tell you, you know what you see, and it's like he works out, he eats, you guys sit on the couch.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
That's
that's basically it. Yeah.
That's like an,
And Heber's
Probably
awake
like
now.
And he was awake. Yeah. Welcome
that's probably
to the
like
snack.
95% of our
Yeah.
relationship.
I cook.
I'm not in, like, I think I nailed it. Like, and it's
Yeah.
like, by the way, and I do this when I go to Cookville, and it's like, I mean, aside from hanging out with my family and kids, like that's as fun as it gets for me. Like
Yeah.
it's just because it's like comfortable. You say it, I sleep 14 hours there. Like I don't sleep 4 hours when I'm anywhere else. I'm just like, your home is home.
Yeah.
You know?
Cozy.
You said that. You helped us move into our house in Cookville. So you saw it bare. You saw it in boxes, barren, like hadn't been
Yeah, you
set
helped us
and
unpack
staged.
boxes.
Yeah.
right.
You
You're
and my
the
dad
best.
were
Donnie.
doing some like light renovations
Yeah.
upstairs.
Built out the upstairs room, and and then I remember it was maybe 2 months later you came back and you were like, oh, Sammy, this is cozy, this is homey. And I was just like,
Best compliment ever.
oh my gosh, thank you.
It's all of it.
It's great. I mean, that's for me, that's important. I mean, this is like 1950s housewife speaking of just like, oh, just come to my home and be comfortable and be fed and
Get cozy on the
get
couch. I'll
cozy
make
on
you
the
snacks.
couch. Yeah,
On my strip on the end. there.
Yeah.
Don't you dare touch that.
exactly.
Jack
Everyone's got their
Barry tried to
spot.
sleep there once. I was like, get your ass out of there.
Yeah, everyone's
it's
got
the
their
same as,
spot
like-
on the couch.
Like the first time, I think it was like T and I were training at the house, and like Shane was out of town maybe, so she didn't go home in between training sessions. She just stayed over for lunch, and then it's like 2 hours of just like put on a movie and rest before the next training session.
Don't tell me.
And she like finished up her lunch and then got in my spot on the couch,
Oh yeah,
and then like
she was new.
Sam and I both just like kind of got quiet, and we're like,
Don't know how to tell you this, honey, but get the fuck out.
In knowing her well enough, she didn't move.
I think she did.
Yeah.
but
Oh,
it was,
no,
I
she
mean, it
did.
was funny. It wasn't
it was
like
because it was still like fresh in the
Yeah.
relationship.
Today she would not move.
yeah.
Today she'd be
boys,
like,
boys.
get on the floor.
Thankfully, we got the biggest couch we could so that we could fit all of our friends.
Yeah,
on
that
it.
couch is like at least 180 square.
How many
Yeah.
people? We saw that when Tyler, Chris, and
I mean, there were
Jack are
7 of us.
7
like in
full
comfortably.
adults, just like sprawled out. Space. Everyone had space.
Katrin, it was like a
Yeah.
good crowd.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was great.
And it was like
was
in
such a
that
good
moment,
night.
I was like, this is why I bought this couch.
Yeah,
Winning.
So shout out to Restoration Hardware.
Yeah.
You make a good couch.
Your
Yeah,
proudest
thank-
purchase ever.
thank God for the outlet store.
I think other than my home and my car, it's my biggest purchase.
Yeah,
Oh, I remember. I
That
lived
was
that purchase with
a
you.
stressful purchase. Oh boy.
Yeah,
You
Black
can't-
Friday from an outlet
Right,
store.
60%
in
off,
Boston.
and it's still stressful.
Yeah.
That's when you know.
It was in Boston, and we were living in Tennessee. And we're like, oh, we'll figure it out.
We'll get it there.
Oh my God.
Had no plan.
This is like we Sammy and I co-date Matt.
Oh my God, it's my favorite.
This was one of those situations where she was like, "You have to talk to him because he's out of his mind."
The best is I'll send him a message and the title of it will say like co-dating : here's what's, and then it's just like, here's what's happening.
And then I'll get a text from O'Keefe that's literally like I'm stressed out, I'm in a bad moment, and then I'll get a text from O'Keefe like within 2 minutes,
Uncomfortably
and
close.
then it's like, hey buddy, how you doing? And I'll just look at Sam, I'm like, you text O'Keefe, didn't you? And she's like, no.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Wasn't me.
Oh, yeah.
He just has a sixth sense.
Yeah.
He just knows when you need him.
Oh man. Well, what's So you're out into the wild, right?
In the wild.
Feeding him.
Feeding that Fraser. Yeah.
But what's the business side of that? Like, and again, you're like, what are you learning? What are you trying to do? You're trying to get better. Where are you going with this thing?
Yeah. So I think that was part of when I was transitioning out. It's like, oh my goodness, I now have time to think beyond just Instagram and think beyond just the next meal. And so creating new systems in terms of actually meal prepping and not meal prepping in the sense that most people understand of like a batch cook on Sunday, but meal prepping in the sense of, okay, I write out the whole week of on Sunday, I'm going to recipe test this, and this. I'm going to photograph this because there's a whole process. Very rarely do I make something and photograph it and then that's just it. A lot of times there's a recipe test. There's, some conversation about it. Is it good? Do we like it? Is it worthy of putting out there? I'm not going to put out something that he or I don't like. And so there's a recipe testing component. Then there's the actual cooking and the photographing. So there's that process. And then also now, exploring putting out a cookbook, which I think will be a whole other level of now there's a little bit more recipe development. What I put out on my Instagram isn't necessarily original recipes. That is a newer thing that I'm getting into, especially because I'm learning so much. I'm cooking a lot more. And so you kind of come up with your own little flair and ideas and whatever. But a lot of what I put out is like, oh, I follow so-and-so on Instagram, or I'm a big fan of their food blog. And so I made one of their recipes and I'll tag them and say, oh, like Half Baked Harvest, for instance. She's one of my favorite. Her cookbooks are great. Her website, her Instagram is amazing. She puts out incredible content and her recipes are fire. So it's like when I don't have the creative juices flowing, I'll cook one of her recipes and I'll share that with Matt and photograph it and whatever. And so that's what's going out on the Instagram is mostly like, because that's what's happening real time. I'm not necessarily in a creative space where I can make up something, but I know that this recipe that someone else has tested and approved and put out is going to be great. So that's what I'll make and that's what I'll photograph. And so the cookbook is going to be interesting because those will all be original recipes. So, stuff that inspired by all over, like we travel a ton and I've been traveling with a notebook for the last 6 months of just writing down different recipes, as we go, different things that I've eaten. I took a paella cooking class today and I've made paella once before. It turns out I did it completely wrong. I put chorizo in it. That's like cardinal sin.
Isn't it like a chicken duck thing?
It's chicken and rabbit traditionally.
Rabbit, okay.
It was amazing.
What?
I had rabbit liver today.
What?
Yeah.
That's like the original form of paella.
Original, yep, the traditional.
I thought it was a seafood thing.
No.
So they have
Like shrimp and prawn and all that.
That's like
Yeah.
the popular one, I would say, over here, but the original form is what?
Yep. The traditional is chicken and rabbit, and then second to that is the seafood.
Oh.
And then remember we even saw like the squid ink, the black
Yeah.
one the other day at the market. That's
Was that
like
squid ink?
That's squid ink.
Oh,
but
I
that's
thought-
like the fifth and final version of it. There's like 4 others before it.
My mind is blown right now.
I know.
It's like technology. Just
Yeah.
getting better over
yeah,
here.
it's advancing. Paella
Flat-
version 4.0.
Does squid ink have a taste?
It does. Yeah, I
I don't
couldn't
want to know
describe
what it
it.
Yeah.
tastes like.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was like when we saw the black paella in the pan, I thought it was black beans, and like that's what colored the whole thing black.
I gotcha.
Isn't it like you're talking about original and cooking things others have? Mm-hmm. I mean, cooking's kind of like a snowflake, right? There's no two things alike. Like you could cook mac and cheese, and your way of doing it is different than someone else's, right? So it's like, I mean, you don't get caught up in that, right? Like it's like
Also, I mean,
yes and no. I think what I'm starting to explore now is a little bit of that, but I think on the other side of like, okay, if I'm going to put a cookbook out into the world, like how do I know that it's original, right? Like you get inspiration from everywhere, or you do a recipe so many times that you found in a magazine when you were 12 and now you've been cooking that for your whole life, and it's evolved and it's kind of become your recipe. Maybe you don't remember where you got it from, but is that copyright? Are you stealing? Are you plagiarizing? It's like peanut butter and jelly. How many people put a recipe of peanut butter and jelly out there?
Who owns pot roast?
Who owns that stuff, right?
I want to own pot roast.
Like if I put the jelly on the bottom slice, is that new? Or does the jelly go on the top slice of bread all the time? And now I've reinvented peanut butter and jelly. It's like it is kind of crazy when you talk about recipes. I mean, there's paella. According to this woman, there is only one way to make paella. So if I go home and make paella from the class that I just took today,
it's just rice and meat.
Am I stealing her recipe? You know what I mean? Like she just kind of did a little shake of this and a little shake of that, and then stirred up some rice.
One thing I think we need to mention, because it was just the craziest coincidence, small world thing today, was you're in the cooking class talking to one of the other people taking it.
Yeah. There were 6 of us in the class, mind you. It was in this woman's kitchen like this. Just
in Madrid.
In Madrid. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
and
if you want to tell a story.
Yeah. I was sitting and somebody was asking, what is it? We were all just kind of talking where we're from and what you do. And I had mentioned, I have a cooking page. And of course, I had Jacob with me. So there was a camera and people were like, well, what is the camera doing here? And so I had a little explaining to do. And it just said, my fiance is a professional athlete, and the cooking page is, reflective of what I feed him. And then one lady said, okay, well, what kind of athlete? What does he do? I said, he's a CrossFit athlete. And she goes, that's cool. My brother-in-law is a CrossFit athlete. And I'm like, cool. Like, what's his name? It's a small world. Maybe I know. And she goes, Alex Anderson.
Wow.
I was like, no way. She's like, yeah, I'm Katie's sister. I'm like, Matt and Alex are besties.
That's crazy.
And then she texts Katie.
She texts Katie and was like, I'm in a cooking class with Sammy. And she goes, that's Alex's CrossFit bestie. Talking about
man.
Matt. Yeah.
I miss Alex Anderson.
I know. What a good dude.
Oh, that is when you told us that story, it's like, man, how small is the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
You're
was
in some
so wild.
random piece of Madrid. Like,
Yes. In a random person's home. Taking a class that just,
And then on top of it, like on the same day.
Yeah, on the same day, totally. Yep.
It's wild.
I know. That was so crazy.
So cookbook,
Yeah.
original recipes. Let's talk about that. What's your favorite Sammy original recipe?
Man.
That might be hard. I cook.
Do you know what's original to her, or is it? Well, by the way, I should know this because you just eat. You just like
He
get
doesn't
pushed
ask
in front of you, and
Yeah, so food just gets put in front of me.
Yeah.
And like we'll talk about sometimes of like, I saw this one on the Traeger website, or I got this one from this cookbook, but I don't know any of the authors. So every cookbook title sounds the same to me, you know.
Just sounds delicious.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I mean, in terms of like what's my favorite food, I mean that it changes on the day. You know, it's like there's just some days where you're like, you want something lighter, you want something heavier. Like there's just some days where you just don't feel like having barbecue. Right. But then another day where it's like you'd give your left leg for a piece of brisket. You know?
Sammy does good.
Broccoli cheddar soup with the crispy potatoes.
Yeah.
I think that's one of Matt's favorites.
Yeah. There's a couple that like I'll eat any day and love it. And that one, and I think that one I asked you, I was like, you know what I want? I want a good like heavy soup where it's basically just like heavy cream with like some cheese in it.
Yeah.
So that one showed up. I mean, anytime she makes brisket, I don't know, what are some of the other ones?
I made that ramen the other day. That was a half-baked harvest recipe. It was like a Thai. This one had coconut in it, but we liked it. It was spicy.
Yeah, ramen.
It had like peanut buttery, like a Thai, like a pad Thai type flavor to it.
Yeah, I mean, but like,
ramen, that was really good.
You recreated a Beep and bop.
Bip and Bob.
Bip and Bob.
You
Bip and
love
Bob.
that.
Go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's another one.
Yep. That was a shared meal that we all had.
No,
At the games.
Well-
no, that was a shared meal that everyone had except me.
Matt had the order envy. Do you remember that?
Well, he couldn't because he was competing.
No,
Remember?
that was during the Open. Remember the
we were all in
first
Madison.
year?
Everyone got the same thing on the menu,
Right.
but they had short ribs on the menu. I ordered that, and it came out, and it was legit like a piece
Yeah.
like that. It was like
There's
2 bites.
12 of us at this dinner, and we all ordered the Bip and Bop. So Bip and Bop, for anybody that doesn't know, is actually, it's just, the word Bip and Bop means rice with other things. Like, essentially, it's just, it can be anything. You can put
So nobody
any-
owns
But
Bip
this-
and Bop.
Nobody
this
owns
one
Bip and Bop.
is-
You can make it different every time.
It's fried rice.
Fried rice, and it's usually like, at this restaurant, it was like a cube of deep fried
it's
rice.
so
It was
good.
so
Deep
good.
fried white rice. It's not
White
like poor
rice.
fried rice. It's
Yeah, deep fried
white rice.
And then it was this like crispy ground pork with some vegetables and then a fried egg on top with a gochujang, like a spicy Korean sauce.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what 12 people get at a table. And then Matt
I
gets
got the short ribs.
The short ribs. So these bowls were massive. I mean, everyone, athletes, everyone left with leftovers.
But I got the short ribs.
And
I
they
remember
were
the
the
waitress-
cutest little
I remember the
things.
waitress put it in front of me,
I mean, they were like this big.
and I remember she put it in front of me, and then starts walking away, and I was like, hey, where's the rest of my meal? And she kind of laughed like, hee. I was like, no, I'm fucking serious. Like, this is like,
He was so hungry,
I was like,
too.
this is like $40, and this is what your interpretation of a short rib? No. I need more. Anyways, that was the whole meal. I finish it, and I'm just stewing. And literally my plate went around the table, and every person put like a scoop of their Bip and Bop on the plate.
And he had a whole second meal.
And then I had a whole second meal. So like, yeah, it was like Cole Sager, Catherine Davis' daughter, Brooke Wells. Like everyone gave me a bit of theirs so I could eat.
Oh, that was a big crowd. Was Heather there? Ben and Heather and
I know Ben was. I don't think Heather was.
no, we're just
No, I don't think so.
'Cause
Because
it
that
was right
like
after the open
training
announcement,
camp
right?
that
that was
they did.
Sarah and Catherine's open
Yeah.
announcement.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, so I went home and I kind of figured out how to make Bip and Bop. And some of it was looking up. I mean, you do research, right? Like you learn about different ingredients that go, for Mexican or for Asian or for Peruvian or whatever it is. You learn about the different flavor combinations. And some of it is like, I always like to, if I'm creating a new recipe with let's say like a new Korean or Japanese or whatever, I want to follow a recipe. I want to find a recipe and make it from start to finish that someone else has already tested so that I can learn what the flavors are supposed to taste like and understand, okay, in some, like in Spanish cooking, it's not really spicy. Portuguese cooking is very similar ingredients, but it's very spicy. So there's differences there. And so I find it's easiest to learn by cooking a recipe that somebody else has already made and then kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like this last week was a ton of fun in London. It's like I had an oven and one baking pan and it was kind of just trying to figure out, okay, how many different ways can I make chicken, rice, and vegetables
Yeah.
taste good every night, but still using the same ingredients. And I mean, I don't know. How did I do?
Yeah.
phenomenal.
It was good,
I
right?
can honestly say that I've never. I mean, you know that I'm a little bit of a finicky eater, so you play to my strengths. But I've never had a bad meal. The London food was outrageously good.
Yeah. It was
I don't like. The only thing like I don't like the bones and chicken drive
Yeah.
me fucking bananas.
You
but
can't- you
there's
can't get
nothing
away
you can
from it
do
here.
over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the chicken was like maybe there's something to bones and chicken because it was really good.
Yeah. It definitely, I mean,
I think it's more the
Yeah.
skin.
The skin.
The skin being
Yeah.
on the meat.
it's
It's
so
a
good.
game changer.
You can't
Oh,
really,
listen at you. Look at you.
Yeah.
very rarely can you get skin on bones out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you want the skin, you have to suck it up and have the bones.
You love chicken thighs.
Yeah. Matt
Well,
loves
you
chicken
you
thighs.
do. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
They are really good.
I mean, that's a relatively new thing for me
yeah.
because I gave myself food poisoning off it once in college.
Yeah.
And,
Really?
and then I didn't eat chicken thighs for like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
It was
I think it
literally
was
like,
like maybe last year we started eating
Yeah.
more chicken.
yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the two of you. So, and we'll keep talking food along the way.
Always.
But
Always talking food.
because I wanted you to give some advice on some food too.
Oh. Okay.
But I want to talk about you two. So, I mean, I think people have heard in bits and pieces, but like I got to witness it. Like I saw you guys meet. Like I was actually
What the fuck was that?
no, I was there when that was like
so good.
dude, I don't really think a lot of people have heard this. Like a lot of people have heard you talk about, you coming off the floor and like, seeing Sammy, but like, let's talk about that week. Like, so listen, we're
God.
backtracking now. Like you guys met prior. You guys tell it.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
Yeah. So we met in 2015.
15. It was 2015 open announcement.
Yeah. Officially, that was like our first meet at the 15.1 event that was happening at Reebok. I was working at Reebok at the time and kind of, running logistics on site for that day. It was actually my last day before my contract with Reebok ended.
Mm-hmm.
I got let go. And then a month later, I got rehired again. But that's another story. But this was 15.1. You were there competing. We had a mutual friend, I think, Katie.
Yeah, Katie Polakowski.
Yeah, and we were talking about her. Her and I had trained together at the CrossFit gym. And so it was kind of just like, oh, I know someone you know. And we were just chatting. And then you went out and you did your thing. And I went and traveled a little bit. And a couple weeks later, a friend had said that, Matt has your number. And that was my side. That's all I knew up until that
So
point.
on my side, I was at a training camp, and it was a bunch of comp train athletes, and then some of the guys that worked and trained at Reebok were there, and I was freshly out of a long relationship, and they were like,
Freshly as in 24 hours.
well, no, at the open announcement, I
Oh,
was out of the relationship 12 hours.
Okay.
This is a couple months later, and I still hadn't dated. I
Thank
hadn't
you, baby Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is a couple months later, I think. And they're like, "Oh man, we got to set you up." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." And they're rattling through names. They're just thinking of single girls that they know, and a lot of them are CrossFitters. And I was like, "Nah." Like, "Oh, what about Sammy?" And then all the guys, like, "Oh my God, perfect, Sammy." I was like, "Who's Sammy?" And they're trying to describe her. I was like, "Wait, is she the really short one with big hair?" And they were like, "Yup."
Check.
And then I was like, "That's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." And they were like, "Perfect. It's happening." They give me her phone number. And I was like, "No, I'm not calling this girl out of the blue. I can't do that." Of just because I think, I'd been to the games once. And so I perceived it as worst case scenario of me thinking I'm a big shot. And it's like, "Hey, Mat Fraser, you want to go on a date?" And so I was like, "No, I'm never going to call her because I don't want to be seen like that." They show up to work the next day and they're like, "Hey, Sammy, somebody likes you."
Yeah, classic middle school. Guess who has your number?
And Sammy's like, "Who?" Like, "Mat Fraser." And
I was just like, really? Okay, cool. And I remember it was, every 15 minutes, you just kind of wonder if, oh, no, nothing. This went on for 3 weeks.
Oh man,
dude, I'm sitting at home and then my phone dings and I'm like, and I still had a flip phone. That's how long ago
Classy.
this was. And, and I open it up and it's from a non-saved number and I was like, and it just said
You
"Hey."
didn't even save my number? Harsh.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, I did have your number.
Right. No. You did because you had it spelt
Yeah, with an I.
incorrectly with
Yeah.
an I. Ugh.
And it was just, "Hey," all it said was, "Hey, this is Sammy. I heard you've had my number for 3 weeks. Why haven't you called?" And I had a miniature heart attack, got my composure, and then texted back.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I called you, I just wasn't expecting you to answer. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to leave a super cute voicemail. And then he answered and I was flustered being like, oh, we're having a conversation right now. Okay, here we go.
And but the rest wasn't history at that
No.
point because I came. We were checking in. Well, he was checking in
Yeah.
for the games. And
Yeah, so that was
2015.
around the open. We had chatted a little bit and then it just kind of fell off, I mean, we were chatting to the point where like we were saying goodnight and, you know, I was calling him on my drive home from work or like opening up the phone.
The first text and last text.
Full dating.
Yeah.
But
basically.
First text and last
Basically.
text of every day was to each other.
But
we
had
probably had a
never-
daily phone call.
But had never spent time together. I mean, he was living in Vermont. I was in Massachusetts. We met one time in person.
This is like Sleepless in Seattle stuff.
I
you
know. Yeah.
And then
pen pals.
And then I got paranoid of like I like her, but is it being received the same? Or am I just like this creepy guy that at 6 a.m. like, good morning, beautiful. And she's like, geez, this guy again. I got paranoid about it.
so we ran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So we disappeared. And it was kind of like things were super busy for me when I was working at Reebok. I was managing the CrossFit partnership. So Opens Regionals games, that was a busy fucking time for me.
Well,
and Opens Regionals games was a busy fucking time for you.
And we're obviously very close. And on my end, I didn't know any of that was really going on. Like he was like he shares everything, but like he hadn't shared really that yet. And we went to the games to check in.
Yeah.
And you two were like,
Oh, it was perfect.
Sammy's
I was working
running.
I was running everything, but working registration. And I remember seeing him, and I went up and I gave him a lingering hug. You know, one that holds on just like half a second longer than normal. And then I think, hey, congrats. Well, you know, welcome. Be sure to get checked in. Let me know if you have anything. Okay, super busy. Got to go. Bye. And I walked away.
And I remember I was there with you.
yeah.
And as soon as Sammy walks away, I'm grinning ear to ear. And then I just see O'Keefe's eyes go, what the fuck was that? And I was like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, you played it off like that.
And then-
that kind of went like for the rest of that week. Like I didn't know, like all we were doing was locking in on what you were doing.
Yeah.
But there was stuff going on that week.
Oh, yeah. And then we
yeah.
text through the whole week.
Jesus.
And now that I know, like I didn't know back then, right? Now that I live the day to day, especially during competition, now that I know
Like
what-
how locked in I am.
how
during
locked in you are, and how you were just like texting me throughout the day or commenting on my social media or being like, oh, you're at the beach, that's fun, wish I could be there. And I'm like, aren't you busy? And you were like, I think you're busier than I am. And I was like, okay, that's probably true. But now I'm also like, that's bananas. What were you doing?
I think our next interaction face to face was after
In
the games were
tunnel.
over.
In the tunnel.
I'm like heartbroken, torn apart, like disappointment of my life. I come second for a second time. And then I'm in the tunnel. I have a good cry. And then as I'm walking, I think I was probably going to drug testing or
Yeah.
something. And Sammy was like in a circle of coworkers. And as I walked by, I winked at her. And then she just kind of smiles, looks down. And then I find out after one of her coworkers like saw it,
Does the same thing that
looks
you
at
did.
Sam and goes, what the fuck was that?
And I was like, I don't know.
Well, that's also like you're probably easily Matt's best quote ever has come of that moment.
Yeah.
In the Fittest film that year is like,
Oh yeah.
this is my worst day of my life. Was I made $100,000 and I met my wife.
Yeah. Well, and
It
then
was a tough day.
like the red flags went up for O'Keefe that night when like, you know,
Red flags. I mean, come on. This is the all-time red flag.
yeah. And I mean, it's like, I hate parties. I hate social gatherings where there's just a lot of people in a tight space, a lot of noise. I like being.
You don't even like the grocery store. Like that's
Yeah, like
party
I
is an
get too
understatement.
stressed out at a grocery store. I'll go sit in the car because there's too many people moving around, too much noise. I can't handle it. I'll go wait outside.
Gotta go.
This was like, I remember like Tyler was there, you we're driving back from the arena, and it's like real quiet, and O'Keefe just goes like, hey man, like, what do you want to do tonight? And I was like, I don't know, why don't we go home, shower up, hit the after party? And I like now, like after having conversations with the two of you there, like they were texting each other on the side, like, yo, something's wrong.
He's really
Matt's
fucked up.
broken. This is bad. Like he wants to go to a party
Yeah. What is gonna
right
happen?
now of all times. And then we get to the party. I literally walk in, lock eyes with Sammy, and beelined it to her. And then O'Keefe was like, oh, that's why he wants to be here. There's a girl.
Also, another thing that now that I know you, I'm like, what was happening? You went to a party?
Yeah, that was my nightmare.
Yeah, you did great. I had no idea.
Yep. And then
That's the last
And
after
then-
party you've been to.
Yes.
that's the last
100%.
party I've been to.
Oh,
100%.
Tyler and Chris's wedding, but
Yeah, but we did leave early.
that's because he was danced so much he was sweating.
You did. We danced hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that was 4 years ago, coming up on 5,
Coming
and
up on 5.
been inseparable ever since.
And you're now engaged.
Now engaged. Yep. 2 years. Been engaged for 2 years. It's funny, like, because
A lot of
we
people
never-
don't know that.
Yeah, we never made a thing of it. We never did like a
Yeah,
social
well,
media announcement.
You
or
did
whatever.
though. You posted.
Nope.
about it.
No.
Oh, I thought
Never.
No, I
you did.
never put up a post because
No.
my big thing was like, I want to make sure to tell every person in my life face to face
Yeah.
first. I don't want friends or family finding out about this on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then by the time I told all the people I wanted to tell, it was like months later, and I was
Yeah.
like, no.
That, and like, it's so much more special to share that stuff with the people that you're close to, or, you know, maybe even not super close to, but people that you see on a regular basis, and actually get to share that moment, rather than, especially with social media now, it's like everybody just knows your life. They just know what's happening. They know that you're on these trips. They just know that, and then you get together and you have no conversation.
I remember I vocalized this a couple years ago where, and it got perceived completely incorrectly. And I feel like people took it in a negative way where, like I said, like when my friends come into my house, I want to have pictures on the wall that like I haven't posted on social media. I want to have stories for them that I haven't shared on camera and stuff, so that there's a reason to actually meet me. And then I want my friends to feel valued, of like, oh no, like everyone that knows Matt, but I actually know the
Right.
real Matt.
yeah.
Yep.
And I was trying to put it in like a positive light to my friends and family, and everyone else took it as like, oh, he just hates everybody. And I was like, no, that's not the case. And that's what it was with the engagement, was we wanted to tell our friends and family first. And then it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of fell to the wayside.
I mean,
like,
it's not really our style,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, mate. All right, let's take care of that.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
You're
guys.
right.
Hey, everybody. Just so you know, Matt and I are engaged.
But-
Bling, 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 bling.
kind of a funny story with that too was we had talked about it and we're like, all right, we're going to get married after I'm done competing.
Yeah.
Because like the
We were
game,
totally on the same page as to when we were getting married.
like we want to have a backyard wedding in the summer, and we didn't want to have the games predict or like determine anything about our wedding. So like, all right, we'll wait until after my competition career is over and we'll get married. And we were both on the same page with that. And then we went on the trip, the three of us, to the Maldives, and it's like
Yes, that's right.
the
yeah,
post
the three of
I
us,
went
we
to-
went on
the-
a
the
honeymoon.
postcard honeymoon
Yeah.
to the Maldives. Undescribable vacation.
Yeah.
Separate rooms.
Separate rooms, cabanas, if you will,
And-
homes on the beach.
And as we're leaving,
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry. We're done.
as we're leaving the vacation, like we're rolling our bags down the boardwalk, and Sam just goes, "I can't fucking believe you didn't propose to me."
Yeah, I mean,
And I was like,
handed to you on a silver platter.
and I was literally
man.
like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "We just had the most romantic vacation of our lives. We will never have something
Yeah,
this
we
romantic
won't even
again."
do this on our honeymoon.
You're like,
And-
O'Keefe was naked on our porch the whole time. How fucking romantic is that?
How did we miss this opportunity?
And I was like, I thought we agreed we weren't going to get married and for years until after my CrossFit career is over. And she goes, yeah, but we can be engaged. And I was like, oh, I took that as we'll wait until my CrossFit career is over. I'll propose and we'll get married immediately. You took that as we'll get engaged now and get married later.
You didn't get the memo.
So the next day I bought an engagement ring. The next day we were back in the States and I proposed. I was like, oh my God, so sorry.
Oops,
Classic,
my bad.
classic,
That's on me.
classic misunderstanding. I'll go to the store. I'll be right back.
It's funny though, because I was genuinely surprised when he did, because we had just had that conversation and then I thought we were back on the same page of like, oh, okay, so now I understand we're not getting married for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. We'll get engaged then. So I'm like, okay, I just needed to say, I'm confused. A little. and then I was like, okay, now I get it. Now we're on the same page. So I remember even telling a buddy, oh my God, this is so funny. Telling a friend like who had asked me, saw that we got back from this trip, how are things going? Like, do you guys ever talk about getting married? And I'm like, yes. We've talked about this. Here's where we're at. Like, update for everyone. We're on the same page now. We're not going to get engaged for a couple of years and then we'll get married. I was like, oh, okay. The next day, he proposes to me. And I'm so shocked because I'm like, whoa. I thought we were on the same page. My understanding was that this wasn't happening. So I was so surprised.
Her first word was no.
Yeah, but it was
When I said, Sammy, will you marry me? She goes, no.
No, it was the
And I was
shocked
down on
no.
one knee and I just went, oh my God. This is my nightmare.
It was the
I full panicked.
but it was because I was actually surprised because the conversation we had led me to believe that the new page we were on was engagement down the line. He was a sweetheart and changed the plan to best suit me. Thanks.
Well, you are his everything. We all know that.
Oh my gosh,
so,
he is mine.
yeah.
Never leave me.
And Dad, I think he's gonna pork her.
Oh my God.
I said that. That's a famous line from what movie?
Porkies.
No,
Isn't
it's
it?
from European Vacation.
Oh.
When the German girl and Rusty are in the corner.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
Anyways.
I say that every
Yeah,
time
all the
somebody's making
time.
out.
All the time.
All right. Well, I love the story. There's so many great stories about
There
your
are a lot of
relationship
stories.
too. Like we could tell. Like
We
a
got
million
some
of-
nuggets.
Yeah, we could go for hours on just
It's been fun.
on funny
Mushy.
stories, stupid shit I've done.
Yeah.
I love
Matt's
it.
a good storyteller. He's a great storyteller.
He is.
It's
he
my
is.
favorite. I'm like, I'm just going to put some snacks on the island and then let everyone circle around and listen to Matt tell stories. It's
Oh, we love
the best.
It's amazing.
Yeah. We
It's
love
a lot
having
of fun.
people over.
You on the cooking front.
Yeah.
So give some people some advice on like, I mean, when you started like you've always cooked a little because
Yeah.
you enjoyed it, right?
Totally.
Now you're like you're a professional at this point. Well, I mean that doesn't mean like
Self-proclaimed.
that's not
sure.
like ego thing. That's like
Yeah.
that's your profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what give somebody like some sort of foundation or base that you learn that you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
that can apply to a lot of cooking. Like, is it like, like something I learned a long time, like when you made tomato sauce, like that started with like, maybe it doesn't, but olive oil and garlic and like, you cook
You
that.
build the
You build the
layers.
layers. Like what
Layer.
is
Yeah.
there like a nugget you can give somebody?
Yeah. I think, okay, so this will be like super general. And this is something that I learned from Matt. when
Don't burn anything.
we- Don't burn anything. Yeah.
What in the world did you learn from me?
Oh,
Well,
Jesus.
I mean, come on. You are the example of everything. So
I thought you were meaning like
In cooking.
like
No, no,
something
no.
I taught you in the
No, no,
kitchen.
no,
I was like,
no.
I haven't clicked on a stove
I know.
in 6 years.
Honey, you're a great help. You stir the pot amazingly. But no, so I mean, when I started cooking, just when we would have, long weekends together when we were living apart or when we started living together and just enjoying, cooking a meal for him, I learned that with anything that you want to get better at, you got to practice, right? Like, you got to work at it. He is the epitome of hard work pays off. It's one of those things that I wasn't always good at cooking. I enjoyed it, so it made it easier to put more time and effort and emphasis into honing the craft. But I wasn't always good at it. It was okay. It was edible. It was definitely good food. But I can confidently say that I'm a much better cook now than I was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And a lot of that was, hey, I want that meatloaf. Like, that was so good. And I'm like, I don't remember what the hell I did. I just did a little shake of this, a little chop of that. And so I learned that if I want to get better at something and I want and food is so connected to memory. That's why there's so many food traditions and brings people together and all that stuff. If I want somebody to come to my house and say, oh, I want that peanut butter pie that I had last time I was here, well, I want to make sure that when they leave my house, it's the same food experience. So for me, that one thing that just spans across everything that you do is, like if you want to get better at something, then you got to practice it. You got to hone the craft. When it comes specific to cooking, I've recently learned that, there is truth in high quality ingredients. So there is truth in, something tasting better like olive oil or salt or things that they are very simple kitchen ingredients, but can make a world of difference in the outcome of, and the flavor, the nutritional, side of things. So I think looking at a few staple items that are high quality is really important for, producing a really good meal. I think too, like we keep things pretty simple.
Yeah, I know one thing that like cooking can be as complicated as if you want your dinner to take 4 hours, 5 hours to prepare. Yeah, you can make that happen very easily.
Absolutely.
But I know most of the food that you make, like I'll come in from training, I'm like, hey, sweets, like, can you make some dinner? She's like, yep, what do you want? I'm like, what are the options? And she'll just stand in front of the fridge.
That question usually happens with you either no clothes on or just your underwear.
Yeah, usually strips
Little
down
tidbit.
at the. Usually, I mean, this is the most he's had a shirt on in the longest time.
I thought it was coming off
I
earlier.
know, I know.
Yeah,
hey, Anthony, cue up the background applause. Everyone always applauses when he takes his shirt off. Woo!
Yeah, guys, will you shut up and let me talk?
Oh my gosh, I know, it's the best.
But yeah, I mean, it'll usually be like, all right, I can make you turkey sandwich, fish tacos, or steak. It's just like
it's usually pretty
yeah, but
drastic.
I mean, like cooking a steak, the difference between like a cheap steak that you just like throw in the grill and it can come out dry and have no flavor versus one of those ones where I'm just like drooling over it. It's like a bit of butter, salt, a little bit on the timing of like reverse searing it and then letting it rest for 5 minutes after.
See, you listen.
It's just little simple steps that you don't know if you don't know.
Right, yeah.
So it's just kind of like do some research, do some reading, watch some YouTube videos. Like go down rabbit holes on YouTube.
He's come a long way since
has.
7 days a week, General Gauss.
I know.
And pork fried.
Pork
Fried rice. Hungry Man dinners.
Hungry Man. Oh, shout out.
Dude, we
They
just
kept
threw
my
those.
man fed.
We just threw those out somewhat recently.
Yeah, November. When we moved, when we sold the house. They went down burning with the house.
Hungry Man, like beef stew.
Like Salisbury steak. I had a side of mashed potatoes, side of vegetables,
And a brownie.
and then the brownie.
He bought it for the brownie. Let's
This
all be
is
real.
this is a good segue.
All right, let's make it very clear. My mother bought them for me.
Candace, no.
Salisbury steak.
She did not.
Oh, that's just all that reminds me of you sitting in the basement. Ma, Salisbury steak.
When
my
I lived there by myself, I was there maybe a couple hours, like
She just wanted to make sure.
I was a full-time college student and a games athlete.
Yeah.
So like I was never home. I would leave the house at 7 a.m.
I remember.
And then I wouldn't get back until most nights probably 10 p.m. And then it was just like
We were a third floor library rat.
But remember, this is this, right? Because you've traveled quite a bit without him. You still do now for your job, for your career. You did with us as well, and you found out really fast that if you don't prep for him, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, "Oh, I bonked in a workout today," because he hasn't eaten in like 24 straight hours, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have to make sure that there's food in the house.
the last time you were gone, it was 6 days, right? You're down in the Bahamas for work.
This was a couple of years ago, but yes, yeah.
You were gone 6 days, and I lost 9 pounds.
Yeah,
And
that was bad.
And I remember having the conversation, like, she would call and like, "Hey, how was training?" I'm like, "Not good." Like, I just bonked out. Like, I was just too tired during training. I didn't have any energy. Didn't feel strong. Like, and she's like, "All right, well, like, did you eat today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I ate." She's like, "All right, what'd you eat?" I'm like, I had a bowl of mini wheats when I got up, and then when I got home from the training, I had a bowl of mini wheats, and then I had a bowl of mini wheats.
You would
before
make
bed.
a smoothie, or you would do
Yeah.
like you were a little bit more, but definitely.
I remember
not
early
enough.
on, a very common meal for me was a gallon of whole chocolate milk.
Yep.
Because-
Yep. That was it.
Sounds
Just
delicious.
a whole. It's.
I mean, when it's like the 6th day in a row,
Yeah, right.
and then it would be, I would finish up training, and I would be planning on going home, and then I would get like a text or a phone call from like kids in my engineering classes, and they're like, "Hey man, we're hitting the library to like work on the project. Like we're getting there at 7:30. Meet us." And I'd be leaving the gym at 7:30. I'm like, well, if I go all the way home and then to school, I'm going to miss an hour. So I would just drive straight there. I would buy a little like cellophane pack of, it was like Ritz crackers and a pepperoni stick and a block of cheese, and then a gallon of whole chocolate milk. And just a gallon of milk, it was 1,600 calories. The pepperoni stick was just something to kind of chew on.
Yeah.
And then I would just go straight to the library in like my sweaty gym clothes, sit down until 10, 11 o'clock at night working like my fluid dynamics lab, and then go home.
Yep. We've come a long way.
So you food prep
Yeah.
when
So.
you leave.
Yeah,
now.
when I leave the house now, I make sure that there's food, or this like
Yeah, it was,
more
it was
recent
after that.
time.
Fully
It
labeled.
was after that trip to the
Fully
Bahamas
labeled.
that
Yep.
she was like, I can't
I can't leave the house.
I can't leave without making sure there's
Yeah.
enough food, because I refuse to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm
And you're a little spoiled. I mean, obviously,
I'm better
everything that
now.
you get when I am home is like freshly made. So when I can tell there are certain things that, it's like, it's hard to, breakfast isn't the easiest thing to prep, right? Like nobody likes to
yeah,
microwave eggs,
Right.
and so I can tell that there are certain things that I'll make and they don't always get fully eaten. I'm like, what did you eat though? And you're like, well, I had this instead. And it's like,
Some
okay, at least
taquitos.
yeah, at least you ate, but
I
yeah.
remember back in the day too, before you meal prepped, it was like I wouldn't go to the grocery store because I was just like, I hated it. And then I was too cheap to like go out to dinner or like get healthy food prepped for me. And I remember like she would text my friends, and
Oh
she
my
would
God.
be like,
Tyler, take him out. to
she'd be
dinner
like, "Hey
tonight,
Tyler,
please."
I'm gone for 4 days. Like, can you take him out for dinner?" Or just like make it sound like it's his idea. So I'd
Right.
be like, "Yo, man, like, you want to hit Chipotle real quick?" And he'd be like, "I'd be, yeah, totally."
Yeah, sounds good.
And then I find out before Sammy's texting him from 1,000 miles away, like, "Hey, Matt's home alone, and I know he's hungry.
Yeah.
Can you ask
make
him if
sure
he wants to go
gets
eat?"
a meal. Oh my gosh.
Let's face it. When you go away, like the real volumes, those taquitos.
Oh my God.
You
I haven't
might-
made
you-
taquitos in a long time. I think we went a little hard.
I OD'd on those.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when
Because she left for like, I mean, it had to be like at least a week.
And I definitely made 40.
and I know, but like he was eating it for breakfast.
Yes.
Like because they were like the easiest for.
Oh
him.
my
Yeah.
God. And they're delicious. I mean, you put
Oh,
cream
that's one
cheese
of-
and sour cream in anything.
That's I will tell you, my favorite is Sammy's taquitos. Because when she comes to Danvers to stay at my house, she'll make it for my kids. Love them.
Yeah.
My wife loves
It's a
them.
family favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, I think in terms of cooking, like, or meal prep or whatever, like, for Matt, doesn't count macros. Like, it's stuff like that. I don't have advice to give there because I'm not a trained nutritionist. I'm not, a dietitian. But I think what's great about food is like we do experiment. And it's so personal and so specific to everyone. Like you've done it yourself. I've done it I think I'm going to take gluten out and just see how I feel. Or I think I'm going to do no dairy and just see, what it comes from. We know, and that, there's research and science and all this stuff that there are certain foods that are, inflammatory foods. So we try to stay away from that in the bulk of our eating because obviously what he does, demands that his body is in tip-top shape, and inflammation will completely hinder performance or recovery. So yeah, there are times where we remove certain things from the diet, but it's all on an experimental base and it's all on how you feel. There will literally be a whole week where we, maybe change something, and every day when he wakes up, I'm like, how do you feel today? Like, is dinner, like, do you feel your stomach rumbling around? Or, like those are questions. Or do you,
As Mars says, is there a shoe in the dryer?
is there a shoe in the dryer? Yeah. And is it a boot or is it like a Sammy size shoe? Like what's the level here? But yeah, I mean, that it's like those are questions. I mean, we read and we try to figure out what works best, but it's forever changing, and it's that's as specific as we get. There are some people that like to count every grain of rice that goes in their bowl, that want to know that these are the certain ingredients, and okay, I can have these and I cannot have these, and that's it. And so I think that there's that element of it, but there's also it's experimental. And so I think that's what's great about food, is that you can experiment with it. You can remove things from your diet, or you can add them in. And I think for us, like I said, high quality ingredients, and the thing that I have gotten the most use out of in our kitchen is our meat thermometer.
Yeah.
I bought that thing, and now
she
it's
raves about this meat thermometer all the time. But then
you cannot mess up a steak or a chicken, or like especially chicken, when you want to make
I can
sure.
help you with that.
But then
I can help you mess up a steak.
Totally.
Have Matt cook it on the grill,
Right.
or me for that matter.
But I guarantee, if I gave you a meat thermometer and told you what temperature to cook it to, you would be fine. It's that simple.
You're devaluing your talents.
No, I'm just saying, like, for the general population, if you want one thing that's just gonna immediately make things better for you, get a meat thermometer.
Okay,
Take
so
the guessing.
that's a good takeaway. I like
Yeah,
that.
take
So
the guessing out of whether you're gonna have a perfectly
Ingredients?
medium
Like-
rare.
yeah, like when I like my steak like medium. But like most people, it's just like a guessing game of like, is it medium? Is it well done? It's like,
Yeah.
well, no, just measure the temperature of the inside, and
Yeah.
then you'll hit it right on.
135 is too pink for him. He likes something like 140. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's a world of difference.
You should use that at a restaurant.
Just stick
What's
it.
what's your temperature? And instead of medium rare, you should be like, he likes it around 145.
Yeah, 140.
Okay.
Get
Sorry.
It. Get it right.
She already orders for me at restaurants.
I do, yeah.
Like I'll literally look at the menu and I'm like, this is so overwhelming. Like, Sammy, what would I like? And she'll be like, you like one of these two. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you.
We did it
I know
last
this.
night.
Ribeye.
Ribeye. Perfect. If there's a
He always
tomahawk
asks
on
me,
the
he's like, what's the one with like the fat in it?
Yeah.
He loves that.
if there's a tomahawk or a T-bone, just get it. Even if it says for two. You guys definitely messed up last night.
Yeah,
the
we
order.
all ordered the same exact thing.
And then totally missed out on the T-bone.
Yeah.
It's okay. It happens.
Rookie move.
Rookie
Rookie
move.
move. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty more time to do more of this.
Yeah, this was so great.
And we may
Guys,
do some more in Miami,
you.
maybe. But yeah, what do you got?
So fun.
That is something you have coming up. But
Yeah.
what's coming up for you next? Like, where are you going to be?
Yeah, so
Where can people find you as well?
Yep. So I recently launched a website. So now I've got Feeding the Frasers on Instagram, and also a feedingthefrasers.com. On the website, there's some products. I have some tea towels and some market totes. And I'm going to start releasing some monthly products that'll be more limited edition. Those are the ones that are up there right now are kind of our evergreen products. And then there'll be some limited edition stuff, some
Drops.
aprons, some mugs, some containers, just some fun stuff that I love to use that I want to, share with other people. And then I'm also going to start putting out recipes on the site, and it'll just be the recipes that are available on Instagram will start to soon be searchable on the website, which will be nice. I'll be at Wadapalooza.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited. My stuff will actually be in a little booth at Wadapalooza too, with the Buttery Bros stuff. And Talking Elite Fitness, I believe.
And
their
you're gonna
stuff.
you're gonna have a party.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little pancake breakfast. Ain't that right, boys?
That's right.
A little waking
A
cake.
little waking cake. We're figuring out what morning, but either
Yep.
Saturday or Sunday
Saturday
morning.
or Sunday.
That's great.
I know the boys, they're doing a giveaway to get people down to Miami. So take a look out on the Buttery Bros site so you can find out how you can win a trip to Miami. And then I'm going to do some sort of giveaway on my channels to see who on site would like to come and cook with me at
Beautiful.
the pancake breakfast.
I mean,
Oh, you'll be there, of course.
might be
I'll let
busy.
you in. I'll let you in.
Matt said he's doing the gauntlet, so you might want to hop in on that.
Ooh, fun. Oh my, that would be a lot of CrossFit for me.
Well, you are
'Cause
competing.
I am competing at the West Coast Classic.
What's the name of this team again, by the
Oh
way?
my gosh, it's gonna be so fun. Our team name is called the Real Housewives of CrossFit County. So good.
Coached by Mat Fraser and Tia Claire Toomey. They're gonna fight
They're
about
fighting
who,
over it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel very loved in the sense that they are both fighting for this prize position.
I feel like
as our
Tia's
coach.
gonna win this war. By the way, she's not. She's relentless. She's not giving in.
She is. I'm not gonna tell her no. That's for sure.
I'm way more
You're my-
physically dominating.
Yeah.
I can take her.
You've got to be the cheerleader though.
I'll be cheering.
I know you'll be crying. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, like you do when he.
Oh my
goes,
God,
Oh,
so
look at his
bad.
wall balls. They're so cute. I'm like,
I know.
Sammy, he's been doing this for like 8 years. What is going on right now?
It's amazing every time. That's why it just never gets old. Never
All right.
gets old.
So who are you on the team with?
Okay, so I'm on the team with Jazz. She is the better half of Team Richie.
Yes.
And Michelle, she is the better half of Mr. Vellner.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah,
This is
it's gonna be
awesome.
so great.
This
So
is-
great.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm pumped.
I did 20 unbroken wall balls at the gym yesterday, so I'm ready.
You beat me in a workout, you bastard. So
That was teed up for me. That was it was basically a body weight workout.
I fucked myself up trying to keep up with you. By the way, it was not good for me.
It
You
was
need to work out more
classic.
than like once every 2 weeks.
But that hour after was like I understated
wrecked.
how
Yeah,
Yes,
devastated
Yeah,
I
'cause none
was.
of the gyms over here have heat in them.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just burning up your lungs with that cold air.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Taste
was a
pennies the
mess.
whole time.
I was a hot mess.
I
Well,
do love working out with O'Keefe because it's like I can tell. I reel him in. It's like I set a pace. I set a pace that I'm like, okay, like we can do this. And then it was a 4-round workout, right? He was ahead of me for all 3 rounds. And then the last round, I was like, oh, that's cute, O'Keefe. Bye.
I knew it too. I told her after the first round, I was like 3 reps ahead. I was like, I'm fucked. This is over.
Oh, it's so
Like
good.
you're making a mistake as
Yeah.
you're doing
That
it.
workout was like teed up for me too, the old Matt. But I was like, oh god, I'm so screwed.
I think that's your problem is you keep hitting these workouts as if like you were 33, like back when you were training CrossFit every day and like going hard.
Yeah.
And now anytime you see a 500-meter row, you're like, oh yeah, I'll pull like a 133
totally.
and I'll come off, still have my breath with me. And then he hits it now and like 100 meters in, he's just like laying
I
down.
know. That was pre El Presidente.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we'll be at Wadapalooza. That'll be a ton of fun. We'll be at West Coast Classic.
Beautiful.
I hope to see a bunch of people.
And we'll see a lot from you. A lot of content coming.
A lot of content.
And it's at Feeding the Frasers.
At Feeding the Frasers and then feedingthefrasers.com.
Cool,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, so
Well,
I'm excited to just get in as many kitchens as I can this year.
That is, bro. We talked earlier on. That's a great goal.
Yep.
Well, you're already doing a great job.
Doing my best.
Well, I speak for myself. And I know a lot
You're
of
the
people,
best.
but we're super proud of you.
Thank you.
And it's so cool to watch it play out. We can't wait to see more.
You're the best, O'Keefe. Thanks.
I know he's kind of proud of you too.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm blushing.
Wow.
You guys are the best.
Love you. And
My mats.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks to my
Lovely co-host
my
here.
lovely co-host
Look
over
at
here.
you,
That's
with a shirt
you're
on.
You're 2 for 2.
With a shirt on.
The progression. Next one is shirt off.
Shirt off. Yeah. Yeah. I want to be on that one too.
Maybe we'll do it again in Miami. This is perfect. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So you're gonna wrap it up.
Oh, okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Loud and Live Sports. Wah, 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 wah.
And you knock it out.